solid clap again.
I like it. We were in sync.
We got the clap down.
I got the clap down so good I got to get a shot.
Yeah, my clapping is so on fleek, as the kids say.
I wish you guys could see producer Jason right now. He looks pretty cool with the smoke and the lights. Hold on, I'm gonna snap a little. Maybe I'll add this to a little C-roll.
We have A and B and now C.
They don't get to see producer Jason much.
Yeah, DP. Call him by his name.
DP.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve.
Is that dirty producer?
Yeah, he doesn't deserve a real name. But we give him his fake name so he still feels human, even though we know he's not. He's just a digital recreation of what a human would.
Could you tell the difference if he was a human or a digital recreation of? Have you crossed the uncanny valley?
I don't know. No, Jason's weird enough that he's definitely a program. He's a glitched out program, but...
So, kind of on topic, well, what you guys have not figured out yet or soon to find out our topic for today is, do you know what the uncanny valley is?
The title of the YouTube video.
Yeah. Do you know what the uncanny valley is?
Yeah, it's when something looks almost real, but it's not fully real, right?
Yeah, it's like
I don't know if that's the official definition.
They haven't been able to make something fake that is so real that humans can't realize there's something fake about it.
Yeah, did you ever see the movie Beowulf?
Was it Angelina Jolie in that?
I think so. So what they did is they just essentially hooked up, like if you've ever seen special features of a movie where someone puts on like a jumpsuit with a bunch of ping pong balls over it.
Yes.
So they recorded the entire movie with that.
On a green screen with
that. And
I
think they did face capture too. And they basically just digitally put in the same person's face over the face of the other person. So that whole movie's CGI, but it's not CGI. But if you watch it, there's a little bit of a feeling of that's not a real face.
Yeah, it just looks kind of off.
It's I would say that would kind of fall into what the uncanny valley is, or that one robot. DP, what's that one robot's name? Look it up. What? That one robot, DP. So he's confused, but no.
I would say, now you bring up a good point with...
We bring up a good point, yeah.
Beowulf.
Yep.
The issue with Beowulf is that it is so old that the CGI is clearly CGI.
How old is it?
2008? 2010?
Well, regardless... I definitely get the idea, and CGI is not necessarily the best example because there is really good CGI, but an even better example would probably be the Star Wars movies with Princess Leia in Rogue One. That's the one. Princess Leia in the end of Rogue One, they recreated young Princess Leia. That picture of her is it's very unrealistic looking.
So,
but it looks like her is the thing.
What about hologram Tupac?
I mean,
he looked like he'd been doing CrossFit in the afterlife. He's gonna come back all jacked. But I mean, hey, you know what? If I was in that crowd, I would have been going nuts.
Oh yeah, that would have been awesome.
That would have been great.
But Tupac's not dead. But that's a discussion.
He's chilling with
for
Elvis in the Caribbean. Something.
Yeah, exactly. He's in Port-au-Prince right now. Sipping Mai Tais.
They said some of the Final Fantasy movies have been some of the best animation, lifelike animation they can do. We've certainly come a long way. I was really into back in the day we called it anime, what do they call it now? Japanese animation.
Anime.
Yeah, wasn't it called something else?
Hentai?
What? No, manga.
No, it was always called anime.
What's manga?
That's the Japanese comic books.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of the animation movies came from the Japanese comic books.
Yeah, but I think the movies were always called anime.
So yeah, we back in the day it was like Vampire Hunter D and Berserk and Bao and Ninja Scroll. I mean, they're definitely moving animation has come leaps and bounds in the past 25, 30 years.
Yeah, I agree.
We're making progress, but again, that's not exactly what we're talking about.
It's not even close to what we're talking about.
Well, we started off with Beowulf.
I know.
It's a natural trajectory.
That's my bad. What we're talking about instead is Yeah.
All right. So you're missing a couple key points. So now, shoot, what's his name in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Indiana Jones.
Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford. So the new Harrison Ford movie.
Wow, that's embarrassing.
The one where he's got the dogs and stuff.
I haven't seen it.
So,
That is, you're talking about the Crystal Skull?
no.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is atrocious.
Not Indiana Jones, but I'm talking about his newest film.
Mm-hmm.
In a minute, he's got a dog. I'm trying to think of it. It's an old reproduction of a Disney film. So I watched a video on this, and it's perfect.
DP derailing us hardcore. What are you talking
You can
about?
cut all this out, but I just wanted to point out.
This is why he's not on this side of the camera, everyone. Don't take this out.
The movie, the dogs look absolutely real. The second you play it, they all look animated.
Well,
That's fair. I mean, I've seen artists, painters, and pastel especially that make incredibly lifelike, like still photos and paintings and stuff. But I think movement is part of the equation. Now, do you want to? Can I? Okay.
no, go ahead. We're apparently on Uncanny Valley, so let's roll with
Uncanny
it.
Valley was was meant to be a segue to
Virtual reality.
virtual reality and simulation theory, essentially, right? So everything that we've set up to this point, if we're talking about simulation theory could essentially be irrelevant to the extent that if we're living in a simulation, we've already obviously accomplished the capability to replicate life in a manner in which the human mind could is not discernible to the human mind.
Yeah.
But I think that technology has opened our mind and our eyes to the possibility that it at least can't be dismissed altogether.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, but I also disagree because the idea that it's everyone likes to bring up, oh, well, it's definitely a possibility that we live in a virtual reality.
See, I don't like I like simulation more than virtual
Simulation.
reality.
You're right. It's that everyone says that we're more likely to be living in a virtual or a simulation because if there was a simulation, or if we had the capabilities of making a simulation, there would be millions of simulations. And eventually we're going to get to the point that we make a simulation ourselves, and then we're going to have a simulation within a simulation. So chances are...
Inception.
Yeah, the inception of simulations. Simception. That's a horrible joke. Please cut that. So more likely we're going to actually live in one. But I don't see how that is really relevant at all to our current living standards or anything that happens in our life, that we could possibly be living in a simulation. And that's not, and a lot of people say, well, yeah, it doesn't matter if we're living in a simulation or not. But at the same time, it's like, all right, you say your chances of us living in a simulation are really high because if there was the capability of creating a simulation, that means it's probably been recreated multiple times throughout whatever history timeline you want to talk about. But why does that matter?
Well, I guess that's kind of where I immediately go to as well. So if you take... I'm not trying to get religious, but my mind keeps going to it. If there is a creator, and we are within that, if we're created by that individual, how do you define a simulation?
Well, that's an interesting point. So you're saying that if you take like a Christian standpoint, for example,
and we're created, and God created us,
then
is he not running a simulation?
To an extent, I mean, it depends on what your definition of simulation is.
That's kind of my point. Is that there's
so actually your point is essentially that regardless of who
your
you
beliefs,
are and what
we're
you think,
living in a simulation.
All right, we'll end the episode. We figured it out. First time ever in Stuff and Things, we actually I found the answer to life.
The question really just comes down to how what you call a simulation, how you define a simulation. But almost any way almost in any way that it's defined, almost every major belief system on the planet falls within that definition.
Okay. Man, okay, so our whole like pre-plan for this is that I was going to take the stance against it.
Oh, dear,
I gave a
sorry.
terrible example of like why does it matter? Because then I left there's a huge open hole in my whole argument, but then you just brought it. You won.
So is a creator not a programmer, right? So if you believe in a creator, are they not a programmer? They obviously programmed you. If they're omnipotent, then you're living at their will and their whim. Like they create you. They're putting you into a situation that they created for you or for mankind, right? So you're a simulation. Are we talking? Do you have to hack it out on the computer? I mean, what's a computer?
So all right. You've totally beat me from this standpoint.
That wasn't my intent.
So no, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're talking about this thing, and you brought up an extremely good point. Regardless of what your belief might be religiously, or even if you think that this is a computer program that's being ran by some teenager in their bedroom,
how is that different than a god?
Then at that point, there's that brings up a whole different slew of like not problems at all, just like questions that I would have as well.
Well, a programming on a computer, like we call, everyone has their own definition. I mean, some people might share a definition of what God is, but if someone created a simulation, you're in that simulation, and you're going about your life within the confines of this simulation, like it's hard not to call that individual who controls every aspect of the simulation a god. So there might not be the God in the way that religious people want to refer to God, but that's perfectly fine. They can do that, and maybe they're right.
All right, so maybe what we need to do is redefine what this episode is, because us living in a simulation under any circumstances, I would say is totally accurate, whether you're religious or if you just think that everything
some 12-year-old cheeto-fingered kid in his basement drummed this up one day.
Exactly.
And now we're stuck in it.
I mean, that's the part that brings up some questions, because
Absolutely,
man, that's
I
a
agree.
genius 12-year-old. But a
12-year-old in 10,000 years, 15,000 years, a million years, are they really genius at that point, or are they learning grade school programming and they're able to whip this thing out?
True, but regardless, let's try to redefine this, because now, I mean, you've opened up a whole new can of worms that, regardless of anything that you say, you could be living in a simulation, unless you completely take, if you put religion in, then you're living in a simulation regardless. Interesting thing. Please comment below what your thoughts about that as far as.
So would a nihilistic
religious
individual, would that? So that's the one that gets me. So someone who believes that humanity and mankind is a giant cosmic mistake, would they? But see, so no matter where you extrapolate it, unless you believe in absolute spontaneity of everything. So if you believe in no creator, if you believe that
chaos theory, essentially.
Yeah, but even then, like, we just can't answer that fundamental question that's been asked for all of mankind, is what started everything, right?
Well, I feel like one of the biggest things that one of the biggest arguments that is made against the simulation theory is a religious standpoint, and that's kind of where my mind went to immediately. Is like, well, if you're religious like I am, then you can't believe in a simulation theory. But as you brought up, essentially, isn't that what it is? If you created something that's a simulation, it just depends on how you define it.
Yeah.
But let's try to narrow this in a little bit more real quick, because we're about halfway through and we haven't narrowed it in yet. Let's just say that we are living in a computer program specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's say that a programmer had the great idea of creating a fake world where computer programs are running, and we are those computer programs. And right now, because we're talking about it, they might delete us. How does that make you feel?
I mean, I guess that you know what's weird, and I'm not, and just your question made me think of this. So I don't want to get derailed too much. Like my life experiences with drugs have really changed my perspective on this. And that's not to sound strange. I distinctly remember one time my brother was out of town and I was staying at his place. I'm responsible about this stuff. I don't go in willy-nilly and just recreational. So I decided I wanted to do like a heavy dose of mushrooms and sit by the campfire all night. It was like the middle of summer. I was taking some time off of work. They were gone. It was just me and my dog, responsible. Like we were being as safe as you could possibly be in this scenario. The only thing safer is if I had someone there with me. But I've done this a lot, so I knew what I was doing. You get this sense that your body is an antenna. That the substance can allow you to tune into different frequencies. I distinctly remember, and maybe it's all in my head, but again, what's in your head? Is your brain not an antenna that just picks up information and it feeds that information to you and you learn to interpret it? But I distinctly remember looking up at the stars, and I whipped out my laptop for some reason. I was doing something on my laptop, and I remember striking the keys, and I saw lights from the keys go floating up into the sky. Like, anybody that's done this, there's something there. There's something there that we can't pick up in the day-to-day life is what I feel like. There's something in existence.
I think that this episode should be called Stuff and Things Goes Crazy.
Is that crazy?
No. I don't think it's crazy necessarily what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm saying about tuning in? Like, people achieve that through prayer and meditation, like in lots of religions,
Sure.
right? You try to reach that state. That's what makes me question all this stuff. Is that I feel like the body's an antenna that can pick up energy and information, and there's different things in our life we can do in order to make ourselves more receptive to those things. What is that?
It's the Sixth Sense DP.
But what is the Sixth Sense? I guess like if there's simulation theory would be one option. I mean, it would make sense that the multiverse would be another option. A parallel universe living alongside us that we can tune into.
Sure.
Or every now and then crosses over. But all those things lead you to. I'm derailed your question. I feel bad. Like if there's a cheeto-fingered kid in the basement that created a
No, I'm saying some sort of professional who created a program. But as far as just a rebuttal to necessarily or what you're saying, I would say that that sure, you might feel within that moment that you're an antenna, that you can pick up this information and everything, and that's something within your chemical brain that you feel like that you're a antenna of some sort, and your brain has all these different chemicals that fire off all at the same time.
Absolutely.
I would say that alone almost proves that you're maxing out the resolution of what the actual simulation is. You're maxing out what the programming power is with how much brain activity every individual can have. If you're talking about a computer that can recreate every single person's brain all at the same time with all of the different decisions, you have to have really big faith in a computer program that can actually achieve that. Your brain works in a certain way and can be taken essentially off the tracks like you're talking about, to have these sort of moments of epiphany where you feel like you're out of your body and you can interact with all these different things. A program that can create a brain that works regular, but can also, when you take a substance, also have a different effect on your brain. And you extrapolate that to every person in the world all happening at once. That is an incredibly complicated piece of machinery. And I think that's the only way that you can really argue you're living in a simulation.
But something is containing it, right? So, meaning that the universe is made out of something. So,
dark matter.
Well, this goes into this thing about what are ideas? Mm-hmm. How do you achieve ideas?
Yeah.
Are they just floating around and all of a sudden you grab them? Where do they come from, right? This goes to the spirit. This goes to life, not in the physical manner, but what breeds life. Why can't we take ingredients and make life, right? Or are we doing that with computers? This is all kind of the same line of questioning that lots of great minds have struggled with for mankind's existence. We're now getting deeper into those with breakthroughs in technology and what we're able to achieve with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, just what we're able to achieve with computers, really, right?
Sure.
So, but no one as of yet has been able to answer that question. What are ideas? What is life? What gives the spark that starts something, right? So yeah, I mean, you do have chemicals in your brain, but there is something out there that we can't comprehend, in the sense that ideas come from somewhere. But how do you achieve those? I mean, they don't. Your brain in itself, in a physical matter, isn't capable of deciding that I'm going to build a LED light, right?
Well, sure. I would definitely argue that there's more to a person than just the chemical reaction within your brain. But outside of that, and just as far as whether or not we're living in a computer program, how is it that this programmer is giving you ideas? Where did his inspiration come from? Where did his ideas come from? And then you create this whole new line of questioning. Is he part of
the chicken or the egg?
program?
Like, what? Or not even really chicken or the egg, because you have two things that exist that you're wondering what one existed first. But what created the first thing? I mean, that's really where this all goes, right?
Sure,
what created the first thing? I really liked. It was kind of a cheesy, dumb thing. You remember the original Men in Black movie? Mm-hmm. Remember at the end where they open up the door and they're just like, everything outside is like bigger than what they've just experienced inside. It's like a locker, I believe, or something like that. Like, they open up the door to life, their existence, and outside of it's a locker. I think the only thing that we can say factually about this is that we don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay to speculate, and we need to speculate. We need incredibly smart people to speculate about this all day long, every day. We need to have people where this is their job to kind of figure this out. But there's no right answer here, right?
Well, that's why you should always seek questions.
Exactly.
Or you should always ask questions as long as you seek the answers. And I think that's an important thing for humans. And whether or not we're living in a simulation, which I don't believe that we are, but
see, it's okay to have beliefs too.
But exactly, and I don't believe we are. I believe that there's a creator, but
which could be a simulation.
Which could be a simulation.
That's how we started this whole thing.
No, we started with Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. Okay. That was
this episode
point.
Has gone so many different places.
I like it though.
It.
It's a good conversation.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think ultimately the important thing to do is to keep on asking questions, keep on asking important questions. But a lot of the times people ask questions and don't seek answers. Wow, I can't talk.
Confirmation bias, or they seek answers that just reaffirm their existing position.
Exactly. You just have to seek truthful answers. Don't ever stop questioning.
And it's okay to say you don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to form an opinion now and then change that opinion with new information. My beliefs have changed significantly over the years in many regards. And, with life experience, you should change your beliefs. If you're still believing the same stuff you did when you're 3, you need to look in the mirror and pick up a book.
That's very true.
So.
And
and it's okay to be respectful. I have completely different beliefs than these two gentlemen here, but they've become good friends of mine, and we even run a YouTube channel. So
yeah, exactly.
It's okay, and you want smart people around you who disagree with you.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Don't ever shut out someone who is, unless they're rude about it, who has a different opinion from you, because that's another way that you can have questions that maybe they can answer and give you a different perspective on, and that's going to open up a whole new way of thinking, maybe a whole new way of thinking that is your way of thinking, but now has been a little bit adjusted by them. And maybe your way of thinking is right, maybe their way of thinking is right, but regardless of what is right, if you don't know exactly what is right, you have to speculate at that point.
Yeah.
It's like looking at a flat coin versus a round coin. One person sees a round, one person sees flat. Yeah,
you see a 6, I see a 9. It's all about where your perspective is.
And I
Should we
just want to say
some more slogans?
I would just want to say that I'm really grateful for the company who has not sponsored all of these crazy ramblings. The Schilling Hard Cider Company. Is that how you say it?
Schilling.
Schilling? Sure. The Schilling Hard Cider Company, who has not sponsored us one bit, but should by all means, because they are delicious.
That's my favorite cider.
It is a very good cider. Not sponsored, but they are good. And they should sponsor us.
Stay tuned for custom Stuff and Things spittoons, so you can enjoy your chewing tobacco without having to worry about spitting on the floor.
And also, the custom Stuff and Things booby coasters. You know, whenever you pick up your can of beer, you've seen these before, right? Well, now Stuff and Things. DP was just showing me the new models.
Yeah,
for
the mock-ups.
It's the little coasters that have the little boobies on them.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the very last thing up and coming is the Stuff and Things shower beer holders. They just suction right to the wall, and you can fit up to a 40-ounce beer in them.
Well, that's not the last thing we have.
No,
Stuff and
the
Things.
last up and coming thing. The last thing in production.
Oh yeah, we've been running this one for years, but we haven't really sponsored it as much. We haven't talked about it as much just because for years, because we've been doing this for years.
Absolutely.
The Stuff and Things, the stuffy things enema. You can buy that now on our website. Just go to www.stuffandthingsenemas.com /.
I forgot about those.
Beard trimmers. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Let's cheese it, Bobby.
Let's cheese it.